Yu-Gi-Oh! Has reached a new modern height of deck price. With the TCG release of Infinite Forbidden unleashing the powerful Fiendsmith engine, and even throwing in a couple more extra pieces of support, the most powerful deck in the room is Snake Eyes Fiendsmith, a deck that is estimated to cost around $2,000, double the price of the Snake Eyes deck that came before. Many of us are probably wondering how we can continue to play the game that we love when the price is not only so high, but seems to continually rise. After all, no other game quite hits the same as Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, I'm here to give you several options for budget Yu-Gi-Oh! Play, and I'm going to go over the pros and cons of each in the form of the time-tested, numbered list. I've organized these as best as I can from what I think are the least favorable ones to the best ones. Before we begin though, let's cover an honorable mention. While we are in a highly concentrated format, there are still several budget options in this format that will be able to compete somewhat. Gimmick Puppet, Ritual Beast, and Fluandereeze are all reasonably priced and have strength against the two strongest decks, Snake Eyes and Fiendlink. If you want to try out Fluandereeze, why not check out the deck profile that I made right here. I totally get it though if this isn't appealing to you, because these decks, while strong, will still struggle to convert, and that kind of uphill battle just isn't everyone's bag. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start with our worst alternative. Number 1, Master Duel. Ordinarily, I would never advocate playing Master Duel over playing TCG because I just hate Master Duel's format that much. But one thing you cannot deny is that you will save a lot of money playing this gacha game nightmare instead. While Master Duel consistently has some of the worst Yu-Gi-Oh! Formats I've ever played, at the end of the day, it is still Yu-Gi-Oh! And it doesn't cost $2,000 goddamn dollars. Master Duel has a relatively decent decrafting and crafting system, but it's still a gacha game, so don't get too excited. If you don't want to pay any money at all, you could probably get a new deck every 3 months at least, or even more often if you completely decraft everything you played before. You'll have to deal with maxi and nonsensical forbidden and limited list hits and unhits, but it's certainly a cheaper alternative to playing TCG. Speaking of gacha though, number 2, Duel Links. Okay, people are going to balk about me putting Duel Links after Master Duel here, but hear me out, please. While Duel Links has an objectively worse gacha system with an extremely limited crafting system that leaves you at the whims of luck to pull cards, the game swamps you in gems to pull them and limits the amount of duplicate SRs and URs you can pull at a time. With the absence of the Master Pack filling out half of everything you pull with random crap, the resulting experience to me feels only a bit worse than Master Duel. And what do you get for all that trademark gacha pain and suffering? Well, frankly, a much better format than Master Duel 9 times out of 10. The Duel Links Speed Duel format is faster, more engaging, and more wide open to rogue experimentation than the full version of the game. While skills can often be frustratingly broken, they can also make for interesting fixes for seemingly unfixable decks. And Speed Duels is only the second best format to be found in Duel Links. Rush Duels, having been added half a year ago now, is an absolutely electric format. The simplified card text and modified rules manage to keep the feel of what makes Yu-Gi-Oh! Great, while also making the game easy to pick up and play. Seriously, if you haven't tried out Rush Duels through either Duel Links or Rush Duel Dawn of the Battle Royale, you owe it to yourself to try it at least once. The only problem I have with Rush Duels is that this is the only official place to play it as a living format, shackling the game to the awful gacha mechanics of Duel Links. Speaking of Rush Duels though, number 3, Rush Duel Dawn of the Battle Royale. While this game isn't a gacha game and does feature the Rush Duels format that I love so much, the game as we have it in the TCG world is only a small sampling, and too small of a sampling to truly enjoy. Rush Duels has been around for 4 years, and this game came out about a year into that lifespan in Japan with the first couple of sets included. Over the next year, the game was updated to include more releases to keep the game fresh until the release of the Go Rush themed sequel, which also continued to get updates to both the card pool and the ban list while carrying over the save from the previous game. Wait, does that not sound familiar to you? Well, that's because that's only what happened in Japan. For the rest of the world, the game began and ended with the 1.1 update of the original game, the one that added the ability to change your deck before you finish the story. A laughable feature to have to include as an afterthought. Despite this game is the least predatory way to play Rush Duels currently without having to rely on the fan translations of the current Rush Duels format, which Konami seems reticent to ever allow TCG players to ever experience. And if you're okay with playing a dated, unchanging format as long as you can acquire all the cards for free, number 4, Legacy of the Duelist. Legacy of the Duelist is probably the last video game Konami will ever make that simulates the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game that's not a gacha game. It's also probably one of the most lambasted games in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, partly for its terrible aesthetics and partly for its awful DLC structure, only mitigated by getting the Link Evolution version for the Nintendo Switch, and partly for being a part of a terrible prize for those who win Yu-Gi-Oh! Events. Again, they spend over $1,000 and successfully won the tournament, only to get a Nintendo Switch and a copy of a dead game. But despite all this, if you could ignore the dated gameplay and extremely lackluster graphics, it is playable Yu-Gi-Oh! Bonus! There's no Snake Eyes in sight here. You'll be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! As it existed in March 2020, just before the release of Eternity Code and Access Code Talker, with a weird Worlds format style ban list. Get ready to play Salad, True Draco Dinos, Invoke Shadow, and other decks that now feel downright quaint. But hey, maybe you're okay with playing an older format, but you just want to play a better format than early 2020. Well, how about number 5? Time Wizard format. Out of all the new formats that Konami suggested to OTSs years ago, there's no doubt that the most successful of them has been Time Wizard, which has taken the community by storm. By replicating several fan-favorite retro formats, most notably Edison, it's caused a lot of players to give up on the main event entirely just to play the Time Wizard event instead. Time Wizard can really be the perfect balance between playing official events with prizing and not having to shell out thousands of dollars to play your favorite game. It's certainly not free though. If you're an ultra-budget player, you might be surprised to see how the prices of some of these retro cards have inflated since the prevalence of Time Wizard format. You'll probably only be playing $100 for a deck that won't really shift very much, but for some that may be too much to ask to participate in what are ultimately side events. For you, I present number 6, Cube. Cube is a draft format wherein you pick what cards are available to be drafted. This means that you get full control over the price of the cube. Drafting is a really fun way to shake up the monotony of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Cube is a good way to do it in person with real cards without having to break the bank on old Battle Pack 3 packs for every play session. There's a video by a fellow Yu-Gi-Tuber RJ that can give you a really in-depth primer on the topic that I'll have linked here. But definitely give it a shot. Of course, if even spending the amount of money to fill out a cube is unappealing to you at this point, this next one's for you. Number 7. Free online sims. Here's the most obvious answer out of the entire list, and that's saying something. Unlike most other card games, Yu-Gi-Oh! Not only has one free fan-made online simulator, it has multiple of higher quality than most other card games even get. You have Dueling Book for when you need to practice manually controlling the cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! Omega for when you need to say slurs. Actually, I don't think you can say slurs on there anymore. Oh, okay. Edo Pro for when you need to say slurs, and Dueling Nexus for when you want the game to crash halfway through the match. Kidding aside, those last three are all auto sims, meaning they have the same functionality as Master Duel, albeit with a much worse visual presentation. Even better, all the sims can also allow you to play with unreleased cards, play retro formats, play rush or speed duels, and also mess with the rules to enable the next alternative on the list. Number 8. Alt formats. Konami does not have a monopoly on creating alternative ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh! The fans themselves have also created many alternatives. Whether they be alternate rule sets, alternate card pools, or various twists on the deck building experience, the variety and ingenuity of the player base has no match. If you need to shake up the gameplay of Yu-Gi-Oh! For absolutely free, alt formats have you covered. Now, finding one that you'll actually like is the hard part here. With so many options to choose from and admittedly plenty of stinkers, how can you find the one for you? Well, this next section of the list is a suggestion for an alt format that takes the concept of alt format to another level with a simple free tool. Number 9. Dungeon Duel Monsters. Dungeon Duel Monsters is a recent creation by Mika that can be found on itch.io for free. This powerful program allows people to build Inscription Act 1 style roguelike campaigns featuring Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards built right on top of the Dueling Book infrastructure. It can be run in both a traditional PvP fashion as you and an opponent race to build the best deck, or in a more Inscription-esque player versus DM style where you craft a story together. Creating a campaign of your own doesn't really require any skill other than patience, but if you're a little lacking in that department, the game's Discord server contains some pre-built campaigns as well as several fan-made campaigns that you can play. Let me tell you, this game is extremely fun. It has all the excitement of a progression series without overstaying its welcome. The addition of items and events brings even more fun to the table on top of that. I'm even creating a campaign of my own that I hope to show off here in the near future. But okay, these are all great and all, but maybe you just really love the feeling of having cards in your hand and playing with people in the real world on a real tabletop, and maybe some real snacks laid out. But you just can't stomach giving a single red cent to the very people who made your hobby so expensive in the first place. Well, in that case, there's only one thing for you. Number 10. Proxy cards. As one might expect, the cheapest way to get the cards you want is just to make them yourself. While you can buy proxies for much cheaper than you can get the real things, the process for making them is not as difficult as you might think. Caleb has a really good video on how to make quality proxies that I'll link here, but you generally don't even have to go that far. If you just print a picture of the card you're proxying and shove it in a card sleeve with another cheaper card from your bulk, it'll do the job just fine. This right here is the ultimate solution to the rising prices of Yu-Gi-Oh! Don't buy into the artificial scarcity, print your own way out. But definitely do not get your proxies mixed up with your official cards because that will get you in very big trouble at official Konami events. I am not, in any way, advocating that you use these fake cards at official events. Please be careful to keep them at home. Do not use fake cards at any Konami event. Do not bring them to your OTS. Do not bring them to a tournament. Do not bring them to a YCS. Don't bring them. Keep them at home. But if you keep that advice in mind, you can have a great time chilling with your friends playing all the Snake Eyes Fiendsmith mirrors you could possibly desire without spending more than the cost of printing. And as you do, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video. Just another experiment for new avenues for the channel to take. Let me know what you thought of it down below and shout out any other alternatives you can think of. Maybe talk up your favorite alt format or give advice on getting into cubes or what have you. And of course, like, share, subscribe, join the Patreon, become a YouTube member, have your name scrolling right by here, and most importantly, take care of yourself. Bye!